All right, guys, I'm going to do a little bit of housekeeping very quickly. We had an incredible meetup in Newport Beach. Got to hug Kim Brady, which was so exciting. Um, we have a meetup in Dallas on April 18th. Then we're going to the Kentucky Derby on May 4th. Then we're going to go to Bay FC and hang out with Brandy Chastain for a game on July 6th. We have our retreat on September 29th. Just a reminder, that's where only 30 people can go. I think we're about halfway sold out already. And you live with the legends for 4 days. So we've got Robert Hamilton Owens, easily the most interesting man in the world. Mace Curran, second female to ever fly lead solo for the Thunderbirds. Joe Jacoby, Olympic gold medalist. Megan Riley from Shark Tank, and Jackie Summers, who has the #1 liqueur brand in the world. So we have an incredible lineup for you to live with for 4 days at the #1 hotel in the Northeast, top 100 in the world, the Weekapaug Inn. So as you can see, that's our schedule coming up. And an additional reminder, because I know we're off schedule here, this Friday, we have Guy Kawasaki doing a Legend series. So for those who don't know Guy Kawasaki, this is Guy. He just wrote his 16th book. He was Steve Jobs' first evangelist at Apple. And he has a mere 3 million followers on LinkedIn. So Guy is an absolute living legend. He is this Friday, the 29th. Just for anyone who's brand new to the Outlier Project or a Legend series, this is the format. Robert and I are going to do like fireside chat for about 30 minutes, and then we're going to open it up for live Q&A. So if you have a question, just in the chat, just say, hey, I've got a question. You don't have to write it out, and then I'll tee you up and you can ask Robert your question directly. But I am beyond blessed to have Robert Paylor with us today. I met Robert quite a while ago through Kim Brady, who also went to Cal and was a soccer player there. So grateful for that introduction. So Robert was a star rugby player at Cal. Just to put it in perspective, the Cal program has won since 1980. So I'm not good at math, but I think that's 44 years or 43 years. They have won 33 championships. 33 in 40-something years. So to say they are the cream of the crop in collegiate rugby would be like the understatement of the century. So May 6th of 2017 in the national championship game, which was a mere 2,516 days ago, Robert's life changed a bit. His story has been featured in Sports Illustrated, People Magazine, you name it. He is a rock star keynote speaker and speaks for some of the most iconic to some of the most iconic companies in the world. So we are really blessed today to have Robert. Before I get into it with Mr. Paylor, Kathy, get us started. Mike Perlow and Perlow Productions. Thank you for putting that intro together. Robert, what do you think? Is that a good intro?
Oh my God. I don't know if you can see it through the Zoom camera quality, but I'm blushing. I absolutely love it. I'm
I
ready to run through a brick wall.
love it. I love
Yeah.
it. And at 6'5", yeah, you were quite the beast. There's so many things that I want to ask you, but let's start, and this might be a little bit untraditional. So people probably say, take me back to May 6th,
Mhm.
2017. Take me back to April 2017. And then let's move to that day, May 6th, that, changed the trajectory of your life. Um, but tell us a little bit about, Robert Paylor's life the month before the national championship.
Things were good. Things were really good. It was a good time to be me. So like you said in the introduction, I'm playing rugby at UC Berkeley at the time. We've won 32 national championships in the span of about 40 years. I mean, just to give some context to everybody else, I think the only team that has more hardware than us is the Harlem Globetrotters, and their games are rigged. So, excuse me, we're doing okay. I'm pretty excited, but I found this sport of rugby in high school. I didn't even know what it was before that. It's this very niche sport in America. And I grew up in Sacramento. In my childhood, it was just like hot summers and sports. I mean, that's what I was born to do, was to be an athlete. And I really found a liking to more contact sports. Yeah, I played like the other big American sports like basketball and like baseball, but really excelled most in football. And I was thinking like I really want to take this track to a collegiate level and to be able to play for a great program and go to a great school and just like use these gifts that I had been given in size and strength, determination, discipline, stuff like that to be the best athlete I can possibly be. And when I was in eighth grade, I got into the school, Jesuit high school in Sacramento, and they had just won another national championship in the sport of rugby. So it kind of piques my interest. I'm getting excited to go into the school for the next year and look it up. I'm like, this is awesome. I mean, it's full contact, but it's a continuous game to, two 40-minute halves of just these guys going after it. And, it's not like everything they do is being determined by a coach's play. Like they got a game plan, but, there's some creative freedom for them to have. And then football, I always had my hand in the dirt. I was like on the line and stuff, and I didn't even think about touching the ball. And in rugby, everybody was getting a shot at it, and everybody scoring. And all the guys on the team were just like, Robert, you would love this sport and you'd be really good at it too. It's also a pipeline to go to a school like Cal, just kind of, in our backyard, a couple hours away. It was really enticing to me. So my sophomore year, I made that leap of faith and I decided to go into it. And it was the best decision I ever made in my life. I got MVP my first year playing, and our varsity team won a national championship that year. And after that, we had a couple of rough seasons, getting number two in the nation my junior and my senior year, but had proven myself as a player and got my shoulder tapped to go play for the Cal men's rugby program. Now, coming into there, I mean, I really had to prove myself. Everybody on that program was a high school All-American. They were the captain and MVP of their team. You have much to prove. This is a meritocracy in the Cal Rugby program. So it doesn't really matter what you did in high school or who your daddy is and stuff like that. It matters how well you play rugby. That's what's going to get you on the field and get playing time. So my freshman year, I was kind of putting in my time. I was proving my worth, giving the starters a good rep. But by my sophomore year, we had a guy graduate who was playing my position, and the field kind of opened up. And it was like, who wants to raise their hand? And I saw the opportunity. I jumped on it. I was working my tail off and, doing hill sprints in the 105, 110-degree heat up here in Sacramento. And
And
put
Robert, give people an idea, like how big were you back then?
Yeah, so I'm 20 years old at that point. I'm still 6'5", but at the time, oh goodness, I was like almost 60 pounds heavier. I mean, I was about 240, 245 pounds, but
So
lean, like I
six
needed to do.
five, 240.
Yeah,
They
and I
do.
needed to be able to run for like 80 minutes continuously. So, pretty good shape as well. But my position on the field was like move people. It was like a workhorse type spot, doing a lot of the dirty work. Don't get a bunch of the glory, but really got to get in there into difficult spaces and kind of move bodies. And I loved it. I mean, I absolutely loved it. I excelled at it. So by my sophomore year, I had earned a starting spot and was starting consistently. And our program was doing quite well. And we got slated to go for a national championship, go for our number third against Arkansas State. So that's laying out April of 2017. And it's just a wonderful time in my life.
So life is good. You're a sophomore at a phenomenal university, playing on the most iconic team you could imagine at an early age. And life is good. National championship, May 6th. Walk us through uh, the beginnings of that game.
Yeah, I will forever remember that day better than any day of my life. So we're playing Arkansas State, and I'm not like a American rugby historian, but I don't think they've ever won a national championship. I think they competed for one years ago and they didn't win. Here we are going for number 31 in this game, and we felt very confident. I mean, there was very much a been there, done that approach to our game plan and just how we carried our demeanor. We did an extensive film analysis. We knew their strengths and what to look out for. We knew their weaknesses and how we were going to exploit them. And I mean, for me, I'm thinking this is a day of legacy. Like when you're growing up and you're watching players on TV, you dream of these moments. And here I was finally here. All those hours, the blood, sweat, and tears I put into the sport, it pays off now. Lock in, I'm thinking. And we have a great pregame warm up. Everything is just going perfectly. And then it was about a minute and a half in a game that I'm competing in a mall. And can I get a quick show of hands of anybody who's played rugby before? Like you've seen some rugby matches, you kind of know what like the word mall means. Okay, so we actually have a lot. Usually there's like one person in the corner who raises their hand, just like really connecting with that one person. But so for those of you who don't know a lot about the sport of rugby, a mall is when the bigger guys we group together in a single unit and then we push to advance the ball. And the defense's job is to come straight in and stop us from pushing forward. Very much the boiler room, like very much where the big guys thrive. And remember, I was a big guy, big Rob. I'm put on this field to move people, moving the folks that don't want to move. We're just 5 meters out from scoring this thing. I mean, I am practically drooling here on the field thinking, let's go, Robert, drive this thing in. And then as I do that, the opposing players, they start making these illegal moves and the referee's not calling anything. So I start driving forward, and immediately three players enter in from the side of the mall. Things that are illegal, not allowed to do it, but the ref's not calling it. And their number 8, he binds me in a headlock. So he's got my chin pinned down to my chest. Now, normally in rugby, that's an automatic yellow or red card. You're suspended from the game, either for 10 minutes or indefinitely, but the ref's not calling it. Now, I think as an athlete in a situation like this, there's a couple different courses of action you can take. One is you can stand up and throw your arms out to the side and say, hey, ref, what's going on? You going to call this thing? And number 2, you just keep moving forward. And my decision was the latter. I kept my shoulder level down. I keep my legs pumping. As I do that, number 6 comes in at the bottom and he chops me down by my legs. I start writing down that bind around my neck continues to improve so I can't get my head up. I just remember I closed my eyes, I gripped my teeth, I felt this god awful crunch in my neck, and then it was just like poof. I couldn't feel anything. I couldn't move anything. I was completely clear and conscious in my head, like just as clear and conscious as I am right now, but was completely numb and motionless from about my collarbone down. And my fears just ran wild because I had seen stories like this on TV before or scrolling through my phone. I'm sure we've all seen those stories where something like this happens to someone and they can't move anything, they can't feel anything, and you get the updates years later. And these poor people, they just don't usually physically progress. It's the nature of the injury, it's catastrophic and it's chronic. And I started thinking, this is going to be me. I immediately start questioning all of my goals. I'm thinking, am I ever going to be able to play rugby again? that thing that makes me feel most alive? Or am I going to be able to go back to school, see my friends? But beyond that, am I ever going to be able to feed myself ever again or just walk? My face is in the dirt. I can barely even breathe. And I get transported over to the hospital. We take a series of medical imaging. My doctor comes back. He tells me the worst thing that I could have heard. And he says, Robert, your injury is bad, really bad. And the reality is, you'll never walk again. You will never move your hands. And we're going to do our best. So one day you can do something like pick up a piece of pizza and bring it to your face. And if you can do that, if you can just feed yourself, you beat all the odds. And he also recommends a potentially life-threatening surgery to me in spinal fusion surgery. He said it's my best chance at stability and recovery, um, but I might not wake up from it. So he told me I had an hour to make a decision. And here I am thinking, I just woke up thinking that this is going to be the best day of my life. And now, a few hours after that, I'm in a hospital bed, and I don't even know if this is going to be my last day. So before I made this decision on whether or not to go into the surgery, I decided to call my religious advisor. My faith is very important for me, and in this moment, I needed God. So I call him and I lay out the situation, and he gives me this piece of advice that just carried me. In this instance, it has carried me throughout the rest of this journey and just gave me a lot of power in what should have been a powerless situation. And he said, Robert, throughout this journey, there's gonna be a lot of things that you can't control, but the one thing you'll always have control over is your mindset. So your positivity, your ambition, your willingness to wake up every day and take this challenge on to keep moving forward is up to you. This injury can't take that away from you. So in that moment, I didn't have a lot. I didn't have the odds on my side. I didn't have some doctor saying that everything's going to be okay or signs of life showing up in my body. But I had that decision to keep moving forward. I was able to block out those emotions that wanted me to just be consumed by anxiety and stress. And I could just keep moving forward to get where I wanted to be, which that goal was to one day be wheelchair independent. So I went into that surgery. That was the decision I made. I said my prayers. I said goodbye to my family. I get rolled into the operating room, and that concluded May 6th of 2017.
So we're, I think, 2,516 days from there. And I love on Instagram every day. I look forward to seeing those updates. And I'm curious, um, you know, you post those every day. Why are those micro moments of determination and grit and chronicling that to the day? Why is that so important?
Yeah, it's because when you add up those micro moments, it's everything. It's literally everything. And at first, I used to just like post my rehab success because, spoiler alert, everybody, I can walk in my walker now. And I mean, I've gained back immense mobility in my upper body. Just yesterday, day 2,515 into my injury, I set a new PR and I walked the farthest that I've ever walked before in my walker. So it just continues to pay off, just building that skyscraper brick by brick. But at first, like I would just like share the really big moments. I twitched my finger for the first time, twitched my toes, or I took my first steps. I did this new thing. But there was nothing in between that. And it was great. I mean, people love it and I love to share it. It's very, very inspiring and shows that hard work pays off, but wasn't really demonstrating like what really does that hard work look like. Like where I make my money is pushing through the bad days and pushing through those days when I don't want to work out. It's that consistency that gets me to these triumphant moments. So it was during COVID actually that I was like talking to my buddy, and I just love like Jocko Willing and how he posts that picture of his watch every morning. I'm like, that's just an awesome piece of content. I love seeing it. I think about it almost every day. It keeps me going. I want to share something like that with others too. So I wanted to share the day since my injury because and like have it as a source of pride. In the beginning, like as the days added up, it was kind of like, man, I've been going through this for 42 days. Like that's a really long time to be a quadriplegic. I mean, that's not easy. And then you talk to some guy who came back to the hospital for a reevaluation. He'd be like, yeah, like I'm 20 years. Like I can't even count that high in terms of days. But like he would wear it kind of as like as a sense of pride, being like, this thing won't beat me. And 20 years have gone by and I'm still moving forward. Like, this will not crush my spirit and my soul. And I just thought that was so cool the way they wore those days as a badge of honor. So I was like, I'm going to start keeping track of those days and just be really intentional on each one of them. So that's why I started sharing them and just, it's just like 5 seconds, 6 seconds of
Yeah.
me doing my workout. But as these days add on, you can put it in the bank. I'm gonna keep getting better, and I'm not always gonna hit a PR. I would probably say every 3 months I hit a PR. And on each other one of those days, I'm just getting everything that I can. I'm working just as hard, but my body's just not, not firing the way it needs to. But I'm just going to keep adding them up, and then I get something like I did yesterday, and I'm really going to celebrate it. And so that's why
It's amazing. Um, so you don't get to be a Cal rugby player unless you have resiliency already. How much of that innate, not innate, but built up resiliency do you attribute to your ability to weather this long journey over the last 2,500 days?
I love that you said that resilient is built because that's entirely true. It's something that everybody can work on, and none of us are just inherently born with. I mean, think of like, can you even think of like a resilient baby? It's like an oxymoron, right? I mean, we're all born, weak and fragile, and as we gain experiences and as we overcome adversity, large and small, we get more resilient. And I mean, I certainly developed that much of that in my rugby career. Some of that was just like day-to-day resiliency against like fighting that moment when I wake up and my eyes just want to like close back shut and I want to get back into my nice warm cozy covers to be able to like have some discipline and
Yeah.
say no, we got a 6 a.m. workout. My teammates, are expecting me to be there and I'm going to be accountable to that. When I had a 300-pound dude coming at me with the ball in his hands, I needed to drop my shoulder into him. That'll build some resiliency. And I think like a one phrase kind of thing that rugby really gave me that I continue to cycle in my mind to have resiliency is like our definition of mental toughness.
Mhm.
So we had a whole glossary of terms on this team, and we defined mental toughness as the ability to focus on the next most important thing. So in the context of rugby, if let's say someone passes the ball, bounces off our hands to the other team, we just committed a turnover. If we just want to like throw our fists into the turf and dwell on that moment, ball's going to come our way. We're going to miss a tackle. We're just going to be like so consumed by this past failure that we're not able to respond to like our present circumstance and challenges. That's in a rugby context. But then when it translates to, a business failure, some sort of personal negative circumstance, we can't just sit back and think about all those things that we've lost, about the things that haven't gone on our way. It's going to get us nowhere, and we're going to miss those opportunities that are coming our way because in our heads just going to be looking backwards. We have to keep our head moving forward, be mentally tough, focus on the next most important thing. So when that translated into my injury, I mean, imagine me like laying on that hospital bed. I was certainly cycling that saying through my mind, thinking, I can't think right now about how my doctor just told me I'll be lucky if I can pick up a piece of pizza. And I can't think about how everything has changed and how scary the future of my life might look. I need to decide whether I want to go into this surgery or not. And after that, I battled pneumonia. I couldn't swallow anything. It took 3 days to put a tube up my nose and down to my stomach. And when it was like, okay, Robert, we're gonna have to spend the next hour trying to shove this tube up your nose. I don't know if any of you guys got that COVID test where it goes, like feels like it's poking your brain. I mean, imagine that for an hour. And I mean, going even much further. It was horrible, but I needed to eat and I needed to have nourishment in my body. So I was like, okay, focus on what's the next most important thing. I've got to get this tube up my nose or I'm not going to eat and I'm going to die. So that just helped me to like really like condense the things that I was focusing on to just like that one task, not trying to take on like the whole mountain at one point, but just like that one step. And so that's like one very specific example from rugby that certainly served me in my recovery and just continued to build throughout this journey.
How important has it been for you to have something to strive for, like a date on the calendar? So 2021, 4 years after your injury, you're going to get your diploma. I've got to believe there was a huge motivation to walk that
Mhm.
stage. This past November, you got married to your beautiful bride, Carson, and I've got to believe that date on the calendar. How important is that for all of us? Sometimes to put something on the calendar to strive for.
Is huge, or we have to have it. I mean, especially in these endeavors where we don't have like an accountability partner or like someone who's like expecting results and improvement in our journey. We have to have those goals in the future to strive for that keep us accountable to where we want to be. And I think it's important that that goal is bold and it's something we have to have. You know, for me, like I said, my goal on day one was to be wheelchair independent one day, you know, to be able to walk. And when you lose your ability to walk, you want nothing more than to get back on your feet. I mean, it's all you think about. I remember I'd be in the hospital and I'd be like, I was bedridden, so I was just watching, you know, movies to kind of just keep my mind busy throughout the day. And I'd be watching a scene. And, you know, let's say it's like some very key emotional scene, but someone just like stood up out of a couch. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm like focusing in on that. Like, did you see how he did that? How he stood up from that couch? And I really just like, I saw the world entirely different, so focused like on that one goal. It's something that I just had to have. So even though the odds of me walking ever again were kind of like around the 3% or less range, maybe even like 1% or less, it was like the Dumb and Dumber response of, so you're saying there's a chance. Like I was just, I had to have it. I really had to have it. So, like that's kept me pushing. And for me, it's difficult to set timelines. I mean, I wasn't supposed to be doing any of this, no matter how hard I worked. So it's difficult to set like those timeline-based goals. But I try to as much as I can. I think what really helps me stay accountable is like setting good day-to-day goals. So like making sure I wake up at a certain point every day. And whenever I do my walking exercises, I make sure that I never do less than 200 yards. Because there's a lot, like I have a lot more difficult days than like easy and PR days. I have to keep myself accountable to where when I'm making a lap around my house, it's like I can go left and go to my bed, or I can go right and I can pump out another 25 yards. The decision's like, you know, I'm 6 in, but I've set this like daily goal to keep me accountable to the larger one. I mean, I've got to pump out another two. Because I don't have a pace setter and I
Yeah.
don't have someone in my ear saying, Robert, you can do it. Go another time. It has to come from within. So I try to set up that structure from a day-to-day basis as well. So I think that's something that's very important for all of us to do.
Yeah.
Have a goal, the audacious goal, like what do you gotta have in your life? Something that's really gonna get you up out of bed in the morning and push through hard days. But spend some time thinking of like what are just like really, really accomplishable things that I can do on a day-to-day basis that it's going to push me, but it's going to hold me accountable to getting there. So I try to build that structure for me.
I'm a big believer that adversity is a gift.
Mhm.
And oftentimes we don't see it in the moment, but eventually we do. And I'm curious, do you agree? You're nodding your head that you agree. So when did you realize that this adversity, which would seem like, the one of the worst things that could ever happen to you, you go from collegiate rugby star to a quadriplegic. When did you realize that that was actually a gift?
Yeah, it was about 5 days into my injury. And you know, at that time, I really just wanted to walk and get better for myself. It was a selfish desire that motivated me. And, the word selfish kind of has a negative connotation, but I don't think my motivations were necessarily negative. I mean, who can blame me for wanting to be able to move my body just so I can move my body? And it all changed on this day. Now, just to like build some context to the story, when I was playing rugby at Cal, I used to come back in the summers to Sacramento and coach youth rugby camps where I learned to play rugby. And age range was like 10 to 14 years old. And there was this one camper there whose name was Talon. And like he was one of the smaller kids on the field, but he played with heart and he's like a Rudy type. Everybody just rooted for him. And I remember I would give him the ball and pick him up so he could go score. Like imagine me, he's a 6'5" D1 athlete bobbing and weaving in between 12-year-olds. Like I'm putting a Heisman on little Jimmy so Talon can go score. We share this real bond. And it was around the time of my injury, that 5 day later period, that my high school was hosting a prayer service for me. And they're praying for my healing and praying for my strength. And my dad showed me this picture on his phone of someone who I didn't recognize. And he was obviously fighting for his life. His hair was very white and sparse. Skin is pale. His body is just skin and bones in a hospital chair. And my dad tells me this kid is Talon. And Talon was fighting stage 4 cancer. And his mom wrote a caption that accompanied this picture, and it read along the lines of Talon wanted so badly to be at the prayer service to pray for Robert today, but he had to be in the hospital undergoing chemotherapy. And he's wearing his Jesuit rugby shirt that the team gifted him in his first round of chemo. And it's his goal that when he beats this cancer, he wants to go play rugby. And Robert inspired to do that. And then the message closes off with a sentence that is just seared into my soul. It changed everything for me. And it said, stay strong and keep smiling, Robert. Your strength helps Talon stay strong too. In that moment, tears just poured out of my face because I realized then that overcoming this challenge is not about me. It's about him. It's about all those people who gain strength when I choose to fight another day. And it was like in that moment when things just shifted to where this adversity is not some curse and it's not, this insurmountable challenge that have changed my life for the worse. It's a gift. It's the ability to help a kid battle stage 4 cancer. It's the gift to help someone who's lost a loved one be able to persevere in their life, or someone who's, struggling to start up a business to be able to find that inner fortitude to keep moving forward, or someone else who's battling disability. And all these people who have these unique challenges in their life are gaining strength when I choose to fight another day. This isn't something that I would have been able to give if I didn't have this injury happen to me and I was just playing rugby. To share this story and open up my heart and put it into someone's soul isn't something I could do to this magnitude if I didn't have this incredible journey of overcoming an adversity. So it's just like that moment right there when everything changed. And I was like, I'm going to wake up every day and give it everything I have, not just for me and not just so I can go from point A to point B on my feet, but so I can help someone else overcome their challenges. And like, it's right there where the largest source of that gift lies, I think.
Amazing. So 5 days in, he started to have that wherewithal that, hey, I can turn this into something positive. And I think sometimes we meet people that they're 5 years into some adversity and they're still ruminating about it and not seeing it for what it is. And I think as outliers, we have a tendency to heal a little bit quicker and be a little bit more resilient. And that's, why we're able to accomplish the things we're able to accomplish. Robert, I could talk to you all day. Unfortunately, all these guys want to talk to you too. So we have got a bunch of people that have got questions. Guys, try to make sure your questions are as condensed and solid as possible so that we can get as many in as we can. But Robert, you ready to field some queries?
Let her rip. Let's do
All
it.
right. Randy Ostrow, you are up.
Not a question, 2 comments, Scott. Great questions today. Excellent. Robert, real quickly, Your story resonates. My older brother played rugby. His son rode crew at Stanford. He's a little older than you.
Nice.
My brother is also a professor at Cal Berkeley in the law school. And when he retired from law, one of his missions is to shine more light on the game of rugby in the
Hmm.
United States. So if you ever want to meet him, he's my brother. He lives in Hillsborough, and I think you guys would have a lot to talk about. So I will send you a message on LinkedIn, and your passion is his passion, and you were amazing today. So thank you for being here.
I love that. Let's do it. That would be awesome.
Love it. Love it. Paul in Florida, you're up.
Oh, Robert, I just want to say thank you so much for your time. This has been such an inspiring conversation. I feel like your story is really the epitome of this thing that I talk about all the time of impossible equals impossible.
Hmm.
I'm curious for you, like when you weren't able to walk for so long, what was the biggest kind of life lesson that you learned as kind of going from being this person, right, who you could play all these sports and then being, I guess you would say kind of, I don't know if disabled would be the right word, but like not being able to do that. And is there any chance that we'll see you in the Paralympic Games one day?
Yeah. Also, I'll answer them in reverse order. Paralympic Games one day. I don't know. I mean, maybe. So there's wheelchair rugby too, and it doesn't look anything like kind of able-bodied rugby that I used to play. But it's full contact in the chair. I mean, it is crazy. They call it murder ball as well. So I don't know if my mom and my wife would let me go out there and and play it. But if they did, I mean, I could certainly blow off some steam out there. And I mean, I miss that, team-based athletic environment. So we'll see, maybe. But yeah, like what changed that allowed me to keep moving forward when I kind of lost my previous identity. Um, a lot. But one thing that I'll hone in on is just realizing like how important it is to realize this is a long game. That if we have, a tough day and if we maybe didn't like demonstrate improvement on a certain day or a certain week or maybe even a certain month or longer period of that we're not out of it. This is very much a long game. So when I have like those days when I don't demonstrate improvement, because that's what we all want to see, right? I mean, I think we're probably saying I work too damn hard on this to not be demonstrating improvement. So you kind of decide like, am I going to go throw in the towel? Am I going to give a little bit less effort, or am I going to give it everything I've got? I give it everything I've got because I'm like, that's the one thing that I can control. I could like make it the way all the way through my life and look back and maybe I didn't end up walking again. I mean, that's what the statistics actually point to, that I will spend the rest of this life in a wheelchair. As long as I gave it everything that I had, I think I'm going to be okay with that. And I'm going to be able to put my head on the pillow at the end of the day and rest peacefully because I gave it everything that I've got. What I couldn't deal with is knowing that I didn't go all in. That would just eat at me forever. So I think, I mean, having like that really long-term vision is really helpful to know like there's going to be some factors I can control and some factors that I can't. I have to focus on things that I can control because as days add up into weeks and months and years, I found at least in my example that it's always led to improvement. It's quitting that is the only guarantee that you're not going to make it. So that's really helped me a lot to be able to build new identity and new purpose in my life through this injury to benefit others. Great question, by the way. That was awesome.
I love the chip away long game mentality. It's so important in so many things that we do in our lives. Chris Holmes, you're up.
Well, thank you so much, Robert, for your story and spending time with us today. Appreciate it. My question was a little bit similar to Paul's, so I'm going to switch it up.
Mhm.
And the days that are really hard, the things that just are the overwhelming kind of suck moments, right? How in that moment do you embrace it, acknowledge it in a way that like propels you to overcome it? You know, because I think a lot of times we hear these stories, you know, and even in our own lives or whatever, like, here's, you know, I came from this, but sometimes we get stuck in those, you know, negative headspaces. You know, what allows you, I guess, to like acknowledge that, embrace it, so you can move forward?
Yeah, it's all, it comes down to perspective for me. I think perspective is the key to resilience. It's the key to happiness. If we go around and kind of, if we did a study on like people's happiness levels, it's probably not based on their circumstance. I mean, there's a lot of people who are, you know, chilling on the cliffs of Malibu in a mansion, you know, who aren't fulfilled in their life and might not see happiness. So it's not, you know, but we can go to some, you know, other people and in third world countries who do have a smile on their face and they are happy. And it's like, what's the difference here? Well, I mean, what's the key? You know, it's certainly not their circumstance. I think it has to do with their perspective. And so that's certainly helped me throughout my journey. I mean, just to give a sense to some of the struggles that I really had to go through in the beginning, when I had pneumonia, I couldn't cough on my own. I mean, my diaphragm was mostly paralyzed. So if something got stuck in my windpipe, there was nothing I could do but just choke on it and try to get the words help out so someone could press down on my diaphragm and move this phlegm out of my windpipe. I mean, it was every 3 hours that someone would come in to do a breathing treatment that would last on the short end at 30 minutes, on the long end to 3 hours, at which I would start another one of those breathing treatments right into it. Every 2 hours, someone would have to come in to move me in my bed so I didn't get bed sores. And roughly every 1 hour, someone would come in to check on my vitals. I mean, I didn't sleep. I was lucky to get like 20 minutes, 30 minutes here or there. I mean, death was really with me in that room, just waiting for me to quit. But I got through it. So when I'm like having a tough workout, I remember I was walking around. This was a couple of years ago, and my mom was behind me, just spotting me, making sure I'm okay. And I was just complaining. I'm like, this is so hard. You know, I've put in all this work and, you know, just to like have a bad day. And I just like stopped in my tracks and I like paused. I was like, old Robert Paylor would have just slapped me across the face if he could right now. Like, I'm complaining about walking. This is crazy. So that's me like being able to access perspective through my own experiences. But I've had the opportunity to meet so many people overcoming just immense adversity. You talk about a person like Talon. Like I think we all know people who really go through the thick of it. And I look at kind of what I'm going through compared to what they're going through and just think, remind me not to complain about anything ever again. I mean, because I know they would give anything to be in my situation. There are millions of people in this world who would rather be in our situation than their own. So that's where I've tried to really continue to use this phrase of compared to what in my life. Like, I'm really tired, but compared to what? Or there's a lot that I'm going through right now, but compared to what? Now, that statement is not meant to dismiss our challenges. Like, we have to use this tool carefully, because our challenges are very real and they cannot be simply ignored. I think this saying just helps us put it down into perspective. It helps us realize that what we go through is overcomable. That saying of compared to what is meant to be very empowering to realize there is so much we have in our life. There is so much we can do. There's millions of people who would give anything to have what we have right now. Let that build some excitement and build some opportunity in your life and some gratitude for what we do have, because we are all so blessed. And there's always someone who has it worse. So that perspective, both in our own experiences and through others' experiences, is, I think, something that's really, really important to just never lose sight of, and really helps us to keep moving forward when we're having a tough day.
Compared to what? I'm a guy with 0 tattoos. I love that so much. I might get that tattooed on me. Compared to what? That is a mic drop. The matchmaker herself, Kim Brady.
Yeah.
Go Bears.
Bears.
And I have to rub that into Tom always. You have a tree for a mascot. Right, Robert? Okay.
Right.
So my favorite Coach Clark quote is grateful for everything, entitled to nothing. Share with the group the impact of Coach Clark and Coach Tom in your recovery, and how they went after US rugby and world rugby and the NCAA about the player who deliberately harmed you that caused the injury. Because there's the piece of not only how you are independently just a force, but to understand the impact of Coach Clark, who was there when I was playing soccer at Cal. So Coach Clark, for everybody's understanding, is the winningest rugby coach, and the reason for the championships. Coach Phillips is one of the biggest impacts. When you watch Robert do his workouts, Coach is there every single fucking day. And so share with the group like the impact of those two men on your life.
Yeah, huge. That, I mean, I just would not be doing what I am today if it weren't for those two guys. And so I mean, I'll do each one of them. So first, Coach Clark. I mean, so I think this is his 41st year of coaching at Cal, or 46.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think
It's
so.
crazy. Yeah, I think he's had 29 national championship under his belt alone.
Yeah.
Coach has nothing on him. Like Coach K over at Duke has nothing on. I mean, these
Nothing.
numbers are unbelievable what he's produced. So, but he's a tough guy as a rugby coach. I mean, he's definitely one of those people where he walks into a room and people shut and people, sit up straighter. He has that kind of presence about him. I mean, he's probably like, 6'6", and big guy's got a gunshot wound in his leg. He's an intimidating presence, and his reputation precedes him with his level of success. So, here I was always trying to make this guy proud and really prove my worth to him. And he'll let you know when you screwed up, and but he'll build you up too when you do well. And I remember when I got hurt, I was in the hospital, and we had competed in that game. By the way, we kicked their butts and we got the national championship. But once they had finished the match, he came over to deliver like my championship medal to me, and there wasn't a lot of words that we exchanged. I mean, what are you going to say in a situation like that? Everything's going to be okay. It's not going to be okay. Like nothing about this is okay. And I didn't need to hear that. But I remember like at the end of that, he said like, I love you, man. And like every time we see each other now, we exchange those words, and it's so true, like how much he cares. And he supported me throughout like my entire rehabilitation journey. The reason I'm speaking today is because of him. I mean, we sat down every single week for about 6 months and crafted a message that I could give to other people in kind of that keynote speech format. Coach Clark is a very good coach, but he's also a fantastic speaker and culture consultant. And, that ability paired with his care for my injury is the reason, why I'm doing this today. And I've really like found this purpose in my life. So I credit that entirely to him. And then you go over to Coach Billups, who's been with the program 25 years on this year. Like Coach Clark, I think is the #1 winningest USA rugby coach of all time, like for our international team. And Coach Billups is #2. And they're both on this like Cal rugby program. So we're so lucky to have them there. But when I got hurt and I was going back to Cal, I was like very excited, but I was nervous too, because I wasn't where I wanted to be in my rehabilitation journey. That I had not crossed the finish line, and I needed to stay on it. And I wasn't going to let going back to school make me give up on my dreams to be able to walk again. And without even asking for it, Coach Billups is like, what do I need to learn? Who do I need to talk to? What do we need to put together so that when you come to Cal, you're putting your foot on the gas harder and demonstrating even more improvement in your recovery? So he worked with me probably 5-6 days a week for the 2 years that I was at Cal getting my degree on my rehab. And I mean, he's just like the rugby coach turned neuro rehabilitation specialist, purely because of just how much he cares for me and for all of those players. I mean, I would not be doing what I'm doing today if it weren't for Coach Billups as well. So, I mean, something that I always try to point out when it comes to overcoming adversity is like, we just have to have community And we have to have mentors, and we have to have people that we can rely on. And I mean, that's the reason why we're here today, right? This is your community, and these are the people who you can rely on for support. So just never forget that. And I've certainly received that through Coach Clark, Coach Billups, and the Cal Rugby team. So to answer the other question you had, Kim, about just explaining how much they supported me through the investigation of my injury. It's a long story, and I'll try to condense it to the cliff notes. But what happened to me was entirely illegal. I mean, it was clear that there was a bind around my neck, and I was driven down, maintaining that bind so that I couldn't get my head up. So when I fell, the top of my head made impact with the ground, but my body kept going forward. So my nose like slammed against my chest, and that's how I broke my neck. Entirely illegal. So of course we assumed that an immediate investigation would start up. I mean, there had just been a catastrophic injury in a national championship, nationally televised game. Surely something's going to be done about this to prevent it from happening again. USA Rugby, American Rugby's global or like governing body, didn't even start an investigation for about a month until Coach Clark like browbeat them into opening one up. About 5 months later, they come back with a verdict of trying to actually blame the injury on me, and trying to say because Robert's head was below his like shoulder and hip level, he was committing a penalty, which granted is a penalty in rugby, but not when you're torqued into the position like that. They're like, we see less evidence of a muscle strain on Arkansas State number 8's arm, and less of a muscle strain on Robert's neck trying to fight up. And I mean, I don't have like the pictures to share on this call, but I mean, you see these videos and these images, and it's just clear as day that what happened to me was very illegal. And I was just crushed, because not crushed for my own sake, really, because I don't think this guy tried to break my neck. You know, I don't think this was the outcome that he wanted. But I do think that he broke a very serious law in our game. And because of that, I'm in a wheelchair today, and I've been fighting it ever since. And there was a period where my life was not certain. It's because the rules were broken. You know, it's not the game, and it's not the laws of the game that are wrong. It's enforcing those rules and coaching and playing by them appropriately. So I'm never going to play rugby again. But my little brother at the time was playing rugby. My best friends are playing these sports, and these decisions, they set a precedent. And the precedent at the moment was, it doesn't matter what rule you break, how much proof there is against you, and how bad the outcome is. If you get away with something in the moment, you're good. And we're going to do nothing. And that just absolutely sickened me. So also on that form, they have like a series of like check boxes. And it was like, did you contact the referee? No. Did you contact the coaches? No. Players? No. Like bystanders, no, really mailed in the investigation. So Coach Clark went to town on these people, and rallying the American rugby community to speak out against what happened to me, to make the sport safer and to be able to learn from a situation like this. So USA Rugby was not a very well run organization. They declared bankruptcy, and they just cleared house from a leadership perspective. And one of the first things they did after that was apologize to me and my family, and say that what happened was just an inadequate process. And going forward, all those boxes are going to get checked. Yes, it's going to be done promptly. And we're going to do everything we can to prevent an injury like this from happening again. So it took a long time, but we eventually got what we needed. And, you know, it's because of people like Coach Clark, Coach Billups, and the American rugby community just speaking up that the world's safer for today. And hopefully we prevent an injury like this from ever happening again.
All right,
Love you,
guys,
babe.
we are going to try to get 3 questions in 5 minutes. So
Rapid
we're going
fire.
to Rachel Druckenmiller, then we're going to go to Colonel Scott Heathman, and then Lindsay Ruiz to wrap it up. So let's see if we can do it in 5 minutes.
All right.
Rachel, you're up.
Fantastic. So, Robert, quick question for you. I really connected with your story after an injury that I experienced a few years ago, but I'm curious for you, what were maybe like 2 or 3 things that you've done consistently since your injury that might be more unexpected that have really contributed to your healing? So things that are maybe like less obvious. I'm always curious about what are the things people are doing that are not the workout that's posted. Like, what are some of the things you've consistently done that have really contributed to your healing that may not be apparent on the surface?
Yeah, I love that. So one thing that I don't really share much about is just like me enjoying my day-to-day life. So like I love barbecuing. Like that's like the best way to end a day for me. Just like fire up the barbecue and like make a really nice dinner. So I love that. Like I really enjoy getting outdoors. So like anything I can do to get outside, like I just love it. It just fills my soul. So I actually don't like share a lot of that. I share a lot of my workouts and like when I'm really, getting after it, putting the nose to the grindstone. But I don't share a lot of those moments where, I'm just like loving life. And I think that's so important to just be able to wake up every day with happiness and have things to look forward to. Those little carrots on the stick that we put in front of ourselves is something that we have to do. So that's something I don't share a lot about, but I think is just so important to like allow ourselves to really take some time to enjoy life because no day is guaranteed. And I learned that very young that just how quickly life can change. Just make sure that you're enjoying your life and that you don't spend days, weeks, and months of your life not appreciating all these things that we have because we're just so darn lucky. So that would be one thing that I would bring up. Another thing is like prayer and like for me that's really important. And I mean that can be meditation for you, that can be prayer for you. But I think like we all have to have a sense that there's just something bigger than ourselves out there. That's really helped me throughout my journey to think like my life has meaning. Like all of our lives really have meaning. That not just a bunch of ants rummaging around on an anthill of rock that is Earth. Like what we do matters, and the way that we impact other people really matters. Like I spend a lot of my day right before this call, like 20 minutes, just reflecting on on what this injury has given me and like how I can help other people. And like I'm praying that I can give all of you something that's going to inspire you throughout your day today. I spend a lot of time like thinking about that. So I think that's something that's not really important for all of us to focus on is how can we make a better impact on the lives of others because they're like are just the little challenges that we go through today isn't everything. There's something much bigger going on and we can contribute to that and help other people through it.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Colonel Heathman.
Hey, Robert, I love this. I love your perspective, and I'm probably going to send you a note because I think we should talk. But
I would love it.
when I was going through radiation treatments, I had 30 rounds, and I had 30 pieces of taffy from saltwater taffy from Cape Cod that I kept in my car. So every time I go get treatments done, I would eat one piece of taffy, and the goal was eat all the taffy. Right. So I'm curious, as you go through all these different therapies and you still have the big goal, but the small ones, how do you celebrate, or do you have any traditions that you've developed on your own to get to the next level?
I do. I'm laughing right now because you're all going to think I'm so weird. So whenever I hit a PR goal, I always go to Chili's. I don't know like how this whole thing started, but it was like in Denver, they knew exactly who I was. They're like, "Hey, Robert, welcome in. We got another basket of chips and salsa like on the table for you." Whenever I hit a PR goal, like I always go to Chili's. So last night I was rocking the secret sauce burger and a nice little basket of chips and salsa. I don't know. It's like it's just a funny thing, but like good to like give myself a good little pat on the back there, and just like some cheap, easy, quick thing that I can do to celebrate the victory. And my wife and I, we just love it. So that's so funny you asked that question. That's why I'm laughing because Chili's is just the place to be for me.
I love it. I think we get creative in these times of desperation, right? So
Right.
Has
Right.
Chili's not figured out yet that you would be a phenomenal spokesperson for them?
I got to.
Hello.
It would be dangerous. I would probably I would lose my ability to walk so far because I put on the pounds just eating too much of that food. I love it so much, but we got to make it happen.
Lindsay Ruiz, take us home.
She had to jump, Scott. She apologized in the chat. She had a 1 o'clock she had to run to.
All right. So I am super curious if I can ask the last question.
Mhm.
You talked about the player that injured you. And I'm curious, has there been any communication? Has he ever apologized? And how have you reconciled that? And I think it's very difficult to move forward if you don't forgive. And I'm assuming that somehow you've come to grips with that, and forgave him for what he did.
Yeah, this journey of forgiveness for the person who broke my neck is easily one of the most difficult circumstances I encountered throughout this injury. And when I first saw like the nature of how this all happened, I mean, I was just filled with a rage that I can't explain. It was very much my instinct when someone hurt me like that, to like fight back. I mean, like the sport of rugby, there's kind of like two forms of justice. There's a referee, calling penalties and stuff like that. And then we also enact justice with our shoulders. And if someone puts a really dirty hit on someone, we're going to hit them back and we're going to hit them hard because you can't be doing dirty stuff like that. And here I had just been put on my back. I couldn't get up. Hardest and dirtiest I've ever been hit in my life. And there's nothing, I could really do, but just accept what had happened to me and keep moving forward. And that rage within me was strong. It was intense and it wanted to burn me. Now I think there's some people out there who would say, like, Robert, I would use that rage to kind of be the fuel for the fire that keeps me going. Deep within me, I just knew, like, if you stand too close to the fire for too long, you're gonna get burned. And maybe I think there was definitely a faith component to it that helped me to forgive. But then also just like a general awareness that like holding on to the hatred of this person is just going to get me nowhere. It's going to keep me looking back, and I need to look forward because that's where I'm going. So I made the decision very early on to forgive him. And it was like a mind over matter kind of thing, to where like I didn't feel like it at all. And people would ask me, Robert, what do you think about this guy? Like, what's your take? And kind of even like feeling that hatred, saying like how bad of a person he is and stuff like that. I mean, just kind of out of character, just fomenting. And I would still say, like, I forgive him and I wish him well. I wouldn't play into it. And but deep within me, there's still a lot of negativity that I was holding on to. It wasn't some flip of the switch thing. Like I could just say a few words and then I'm just at peace in my life. It took time and intentionality. So I would just keep saying it. I forgive him and I wish him well. And I forgive him and I wish him well. And as I said those words and time went on, that hatred slowly went down, like bit by bit. It just vanished, to where here I am today, completely freed of all that. And he's never reached out to me. And that player has never said he's sorry, but I forgive him whether he's sorry or not. And I've gone through my healing process because I chose that path of forgiveness. Because I think that's something we just all have to take, because forgiveness is not just about removing guilt from a person who did wrong. It's about removing those negative attachments from the person who has done wrong too. It's probably even more so that case of the benefit. So there'll be times when we might fall off the path and we might really give words to those negative thoughts that we're feeling, but it's never too late to get back on the path of forgiveness and just keep saying those words. I guarantee you that over time you will be freed from that and you'll be better because of it.
Robert, this has been an unbelievable hour. And I'm not saying you need to write a book, but if you do, Compared to What might be a good title. I'm just saying. Guys, support Robert. Obviously, he makes his living getting on big stages. If you know of somebody looking for somebody with an incredible story that can inspire people, please think of Robert. But also write him a recommendation on LinkedIn. Do whatever we can to support him for pouring into us for the last hour. Man, I cannot thank you enough. This was really, really spectacular. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. I can't thank you enough. I can't thank all of you enough for just for listening, for being so supportive. This really filled up my cup today. So if you want to reach out, please do. robertpaylor.com. Emails rob@robertpaylor.com. Pretty easy to find on social media. Would love to connect with anyone one-on-one. But thank you for today, and I hope that this is something we all remember for a very long time.
Absolutely. You are a true outlier, and you fit in like a glove here. So
He's ours. Right,
thank you.
Robert?
That's
He's
right.
Thanks for making
ours.
the intro. And Robert, we're wishing you nothing but the best. Hope to see you again soon.
Yes, likewise. You're all the best. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining us.
That was
I will
rad.
see you all Friday.
Thank you. Amazing.
Guy Kawasaki. And if you have not signed up, we just announced yesterday we are putting out a magazine called Outlier Magazine. It is absolutely gorgeous. It's beautiful, aesthetically, but the content within it really shining a light on outliers is really cool, and it's free. So definitely subscribe. You can find it all over LinkedIn. So again, thank you guys so much for joining us. And KL, are you still in India?
No, I'm back.
You're back.
I was a little jet lagged, so I'm sorry I wasn't on camera. Robert, unbelievable. Thank you so much for sharing. What an inspiration.
Thank you. It was so much fun.
Yeah, welcome back, KL.
Thank you.
We gotta catch up.
We will. Thank you.
All right, guys, I gotta run. We'll see ya. Bye,
Ciao.
Robert.
Bye-bye.